Let me pull up the story we got from Fox News. CNN's Jim Acosta compares Virginia to Soviet-style police state under Glenn Youngkin. Critics took to social media to blast Acosta's comparison, calling it a bridge too far and evil. Well, as you all may not be aware, Jim Acosta is doing some show on CNN called Democracy in Peril. I think it's funny that Glenn Youngkin only just got into office. There's no Soviet-style police state of anything. Barely anything's happening. Meanwhile, in D.C., you need to show your papers to get into a restaurant.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
But not to vote.
But not to vote.
So the question, what exactly does Acosta think the parallel is here?
He's lying.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if he's in New York or Atlanta or D.C., but in our nation's capital, if you want to visit the Capitol and protest, it's more difficult to do so, especially if you're not vaccinated. If you want to communicate with your elected representatives, it's nearly impossible to do so. We have that rump committee threatening and talking about throwing out hundreds of members of Congress because they opposed they were involved in the election disputes. You have the Justice Department talking about investigating thousands of people because they were opposed to the election disputes. That's the Soviet-style approach to governance.
You see Joe Walsh?
Good for you.
On Twitter?
No. I know who he is. I didn't see it.
He said anybody who tries to put forth a fake group of electors should be investigated or blah, blah, blah. So let me just want to...
Which Democrats did in 1960
You beat me to
Hawaii.
It. That's right. So what they made up a fake story. Rachel Maddow talks about it. She's like, I've discovered forgery documents. Shut up. They're not forgeries. What happened was when the election was being contested, whatever your opinion is not the point. Republicans said, we are going to fill out the forms the same as the Democrats were, and we're going to submit them. And sure enough, when the official electors came in and were certified for the Democrats, they went and Pence chose them. And it was 1960, I believe, right?
Yep.
Nixon versus Kennedy. Hawaii certified Republican electors, but the Democrats decided to go and fill out their own forms anyway. Lo and behold, the courts ruled in their favor. So when the uncertified Democrat electors went to the joint session of Congress, Nixon said, we know what happened. The courts have ruled. So I'm going to pick these anyway. Imagine that. Yep. It's historical precedent. But now you've got these people lying about it. And this is what I say. This is why I say the culture war is between people who know and people who don't know. Because if you've read, I read about that stuff in 1960 years ago with Nixon. I was reading it years ago and, with the midterm elections or whatever. And so when all this stuff comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, they just did what happened in 1960. But he lies about it. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, in my view, there's a special place in hell for politicians who want to put their political opponents in jail. I mean, to me, that is a particularly grave evil.
Should be a special place in jail for him, too.
Donald Trump said Hillary Clinton should be in jail.
Well, I don't think he said she should be prosecuted, and he didn't want to put her in jail because he didn't like her politics. He thought she committed crimes. Here you have the leftists saying, oh, participating under the First Amendment in a rally is an evidence of a crime. Participating under the constitutional system to challenge electors and federal law to challenge electors that we've done since time immemorial, that all of a sudden is a crime.
Right.
It's more pernicious than that. It's one thing to say, I think this person committed a crime. She stole all her emails. I mean, we were involved in that. It's another thing to say, I don't like your politics and you should be censored and you're a criminal and a terrorist. That's what they're saying in a casual way.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention this. I mean, the Clinton campaign wanted to have U.S. intelligence officials brief the Electoral College on Russian interference in order to sway them. So they have absolutely no respect for the system or ensuring that the electorate or those in the Electoral College select those whom were voted for.
We went through 5 years.
Yeah.
Technically now it's 7 years, but I was, before in 2020 it had been 5 years of lies about Russia and Ukraine and all of that manipulation. You want to talk? Hey, Jim. You want to talk about Soviet-style police state? Let's talk about how some dude who works for the CIA accuses the president of some nonsense, and the people of this country can't even say his name. Please don't say his name, because we can't. Because you want to know who's enforcing the Soviet-style police state? It is the Democratic establishment. It is the media. It's social media. If we say the name of this guy, YouTube will take the stream down.
Well, and that's exactly the thing. So I think the best way to summarize the Soviet-style system and the parallels in America are as follows. In 2016, it was alleged that the election was fraudulent. And in that instance, we investigated those who were elected. In 2020, it was also alleged that the election was fraudulent. This time, we investigated the people making the accusation.
Yeah.
Well, the left has been doing this since 68. They thought Nixon stole the election. They had secret negotiations with Vietnam. 72, he overwhelmingly won, so the left used Watergate to relitigate. He cheated his way in. 1980, Reagan had secret talks with Iran. His election was invalid.
I saw this. I think Snopes tried doing a fact check on it, but it said something like every election since 1968 the Democrats have claimed has been stolen. Is that?
Well, it's 2000. I was down counting ballots in 2000.
Wow.
Gore was running around trying to change the results. And then 2000. Then now we're in 2016 with Trump. They tried to change the results.
I'm just tired of it. I got to be honest. I'm tired of it with the Trump supporters. To be honest, I'm tired of it. I've been tired of it from before this. It's just, look, I just want to get to the point where we move forward. But I think we need to understand at this point, 2016, 2020, 2068, whatever year, I don't care. Nobody's playing by the rules anymore. And I mean that figuratively and somewhat literally. What I mean is it's like, Walsh on Twitter being like, we should lock up the people who forged these documents, but they didn't. That's a lie. When they subpoena Alex Jones, these subpoenas from the January 6th committee, we had, I think Bannon may have told us this, expensive. You can't just get subpoenaed and be like, okay, tell me where to go.
Yeah.
There's cash.
It's $15,000 to look at it.
Just to look at it. Yep. And so what they're doing is they're draining resources. They're using the power of the federal government to suppress, to shut down dissidents. The weight of the government is going after political rivals in a way Donald Trump never did. The man talked big and said to Hillary, oh, you'd be in jail, and then did nothing.
Yeah.
He did nothing.
Did you see the Politico story the other day that confirmed or showed that the Capitol Hill Police Department, which answers now to Pelosi and Schumer, Pelosi is the queen of the Hill when it comes to security, is gathering intelligence on members under the guise of security, investigating where they're going, who they're meeting with, donors and staff. So you've got this unholy melding of a police force with a political party.
I bet that they're thinking if we don't observe and spy on everyone, the Chinese CCP is going to do it. So we have to be the ultimate spy network. I think that's the mentality.
Well, many of them are on the payroll.
Oh, so it's bigger than the governments and it's more of a multinational coercive. Yeah, I would get down with that.
I do think we're winning. The raid on James O'Keefe. It just shows you how completely desperate the establishment is to maintain their power.
Now, that was a wild abuse of power, and we just got documents last week. I don't know if you saw.
That's right, the Pfizer stuff.
I mean, was James talking about? Was he on with you recently talking about it?
Yeah,
he was on, but I don't think we talked about it.
So we asked.
I think it was like right afterwards.
This was fun because sometimes when they tell you no, you learn something. So we asked the FBI give us records about communications with Pfizer about Project Veritas, and they said we can't give you those because they're in an investigative file.
Confirming their existence.
It's like normally they don't confirm it, so it was kind of an odd response.
Yeah.
So they've confirmed that Pfizer is working with the FBI somehow to target Project Veritas, who had, for those who don't know, had done some exposés on fetal cells and being involved, or fetal organs being involved in the creation and helping guarantee the safety of vaccines, things that they didn't want out there, which are true, but they don't like it out there because people get upset about it.
But that's just the Veritas thing is a really good example of the desperation to be that overt with your strategies to go against American journalists. It just shows, to use the metaphor we've used nonstop for the past 2 weeks, the emperor has no clothes. But they had power for a long time, and it's being ripped from them. I think the internet is what's causing it.
Yeah, well, and it's just at this point, imagine trusting a journalist who the entire system isn't trying to crush.
Yeah, when any news channel that puts on Adam Schiff, I'm just immediately like, okay, it's fake news.
Yeah, exactly.
Turn it off.
Exactly.
Turn it off. Nancy Pelosi too.
Lapdogs.
I mean, I think it's fair to bring those people on if you're adversarial, but
if you want to make fun of them,
Although, I don't know. I'm all big part of like ban the account, not the person. I don't think that just because someone has a track record of lying that they're necessarily lying. So I don't want to discount these people flat out. I understand that it's more of a variant scale, and maybe someone that lies a lot is like maybe a 7% weight to their statement, but that's still 7%.
I don't know, man. So you're right that it is technically possible for somebody to lie about something and then tell the truth later on, but a person loses their credibility. And honestly, there are so many people trying to compete for our bandwidth that I have no interest in giving my attention to someone who I know has lied before.
You know, with politics, you don't
Repeatedly.
I don't really care whether someone lies too much in politics. I mean, it's a problem, you know, morally, it's objectionable as a voter. It's the corruption that bothers me. Adam Schiff abused his power to take the phone records of Rudy Giuliani and publish them. And then we go to court trying to get the records, and part of their argument was we can do that, and we don't need a court authorization to do it. So right now we know that they're taking the phone records of people, and who knows, internet records of potentially, I don't know, millions of people the way they're wording these requests, and there's no control or policing of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Alex
that's an
Jones's
abuse of
text
power.
messages.
That's corrupt. It's not even they're even using subpoenas anymore. They're just requesting the information. So if you were a supporter of Trump online and made comments on election and you had your account deleted or censored, that's the sort of stuff that Congress is asking for information on. I mean, do you want that in the hands of Congress or Adam Schiff? These are, like I keep on saying, our republic is under assault. And this isn't political differences. This is a question of whether or not we're going to follow the law and we're going to follow the infrastructure the Constitution has laid out for us and how we govern ourselves, or whether the bad guys are just going to break all the rules to go after their enemies.
They changed the law. The Patriot Act's insane, but they made that legal so that now they can legally just take all the records legally, even though it's still corrupt.
Well, yeah. I mean, the FBI hasn't backed off from their targeting of parents as terrorists. I mean, there was controversy about it, but they're still doing it.
Yeah.